the mark of booty.
Shit. Nah. Love the royal priesthood. Mark of Buddha, Sekou the Madman, Killer Priest, Fourth Chambers, Full Fuji. This beat sound like something I wear. You dig? Yo, hold on my people, why you walking around like you equal? They wrote you in as 3/5. What we gon' do about this? Talk too much, you end up like Jimi Hendrix in 27 Club. You want that knowledge? Well, I'm the plug. Knowledge itself is the drug. And I keep dropping the nugs. Culture pushing, wisdom spitting, pimping simpletons into listening. Yawning while you spewing fiction. I can feel the tensions in your intentions. I wonder if that's shots in heaven. If God is white, why he write that bronze was the sun? They give us reparations, that's when the apocalypse begun. Yeah. Red rhyme, okay. Red rhyme, better rhyme. Grab your guns, daughters and sons. Wasn't long ago when they had us hung. Blood on the leaves, frontal crumbled in between. Exhale for my ancestors that prevailed. We inhale, so we inhale, dodging death every day. Just happy I'm here to tell the tale. Meanwhile, y'all with the pigs and them tattletales. I'ma just be a scientist if it all fails. Mixing chemicals like a cocktail. My tree smell like it's from the tropical. So not for sale, never settle. Follow the tears on the trail. Nah.
That whole African American thing is to omit, you see, the indigenous black man of this particular land. When we brought the African American term, we cut out all of the Caribbean, all of South America, all of Latin America. This is another way to reclassify you see what I'm saying, outside of power.
We got blacks, whites, brown and yellow. We got red, those with dreads found from the ghetto. We got bullet led and misled, the smile of the devil. On the face of the moon, heart pound like a rebel. Hear the sound of the metal. War in Iraq, 6 feet underground with the shovel. All over the map, the Bible said signs of the time. The Torah said that's your God, not mine. The Holy Quran says it's all Allah designed. The Buddhist says let's meet at the shrine. Thou shalt not eat of the swine. That you is the cut, sure as blue as the blood. Killer priests in the temple, Nehru is the love.
That's a political move that was put in by the government to break you down to this subclass, you see, and not be a world community. So to call you an African American is to disconnect you from that global community and that great diaspora that we were talking about. So that's a political move. Yes, come on. The average Native American was this brother's complexion at the turn of the century. Now when you say Native American, it's some white person with a feather in his hair.
All right. Greetings.
Greetings, brother.
Greetings, family. Welcome back to another edition of New Day Resurrection and Liberation. All right, family. With that being said, I am your co-host and moderator for this evening, Brother Lumumba Uncaged. I have with me the host and creator of New Day Resurrection and Liberation, Dr. Philae Chinesu, also known as Empress Chi. We have with us on board for this evening Mama Barbara Gaskins, Baba Bambozi Shango, and our brother Baba Dr. Onaji Mued. All right. Greetings to the panel. Thanks for joining us this evening. We have another powerful edition of New Day Resurrection and Liberation in this ceremonious Black August celebration. All right. And I thank you all for joining us once again, family. With that being said, let me turn it over to Sister Empress Chi.
All right. Greetings, family, and thank you for joining us for this segment of our Black August edition. And I tell you, this month has been very, very powerful. Brother Lumumba, by any chance, do you see a clip? There's a couple. One in particular, it talks about who is Kwesi Balagoon. Did you, by any chance, see that one?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Okay, so I want to go to that one first, and then after that, played a short clip with Baba Kwame Ture. But I wanted to kick it off with this being Black August, and of course, we've been talking about political prisoners for this entire month, particularly those that are still behind the walls, but also, of course, those who were behind the walls and were freed. And so, by the way, family, a little later on, we're literally going to be talking with two former political prisoners, and that is Sisters Janet and Janine Africa. So they'll be joining us very shortly. But I want to make sure that people remember political prisoners prior to it becoming popular. And the mere fact that many of our people were being incarcerated prior to, again, what we're now seeing with a lot of the various activities. And of course, it is important to focus on the work that needs to be done today, but I do not want to forget about people who definitely gave their lives some years ago. With that said, let's learn a little bit about Brother Kwesi Balagoon.
All right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Before we do that, let me jump into some quick housekeeping.
Okay.
Family, to knock that out, get that out the way at the top, and then don't have to be worried about it. All right. Let me just take care of that. 1 second, I'll share my screen. And greetings to those that are tapping in also on our social media platforms. Shout out to Sister J. Renee tapping in on our YouTube Live, and all those tapping in on YouTube Live, and also those who are tapping in on Facebook Live. So much appreciated for the support, family. All right, with that being said, let me share my screen, knock out a little bit of housekeeping, fair use notice. All right, this is in accordance with Title 17 USC Section 107. The materials being utilized are for educational and informational purposes, family. All right. Also, let me get to a quick disclaimer. All right, the views and opinions expressed in the media or comments on this channel are those of the speaker or authors and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by this channel broadcaster. Due to the social nature of this broadcasting channel, videos may contain content copyrighted by another entity or person. This channel owner claims no copyright to said content. The broadcast of this channel cannot be held accountable for the copyrighted content. The broadcast of this channel is a messenger and share of information and strive to verify but cannot warrant the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information on this channel. If you have a complaint about something, you'll find your content is being used incorrectly, please contact the broadcaster prior to making a copyright. Any infringement is not done on purpose and will be rectified to all parties' satisfaction. Let me stop my screen share there. All right, family, get that out the way. With that being said, let me come to our first intro clip for this evening with who is Baba Kwesi Balagoon. All right, let me share my screen one more again. Okay, that should be popping up shortly. There we go. Let me refresh.
The radicalization of Kwesi Balagoon began in 1967 after his honorable discharge from the U.S. Army. For 2 years, he worked as a tenant organizer, but as he became so overwhelmed by the misery and frustration he found in New York City slums, he turned to the justice of the bomb and the gun and went underground. In 1969, he was one of the original Black Panther 21, accused of plotting the bombings of police stations, and received a long sentence in that case and the armed robbery of a New Jersey bank. He escaped from prison twice, but Balagoon, then known as Donald Weems, did not reach presidential attention until October 20th, 1981, when the Black Liberation Army, of which he is a member, remnants of the Weather Underground, stole $1.6 million from a Brinks truck in Nanuet, New York. In the process, he and his comrades killed 2 police officers and a guard. One of the police officers was Black. You didn't care about those people that you killed.
No, I didn't care that much about them, Everybody who got shot that day was on. Everybody who was shot that day woke up that morning with the realization that they might get shot that day or happy to shoot somebody that day.
In his first television interview, Kwesi Balagoon discussed his dream of a black homeland, the Republic of New Africa, that would be created from 5 southern states: Mississippi, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, and Louisiana. He gave up long ago on integration, calling the U.S. an evil empire, racist to the core.
Black astronaut or black Miss America or black president is not the point. We're talking about 40 million people. And if 40 million people examine the conditions that the masses of us are under, we will have to come to a conclusion that we're going around.
All right. Let me stop the screen share there.
Okay.
Shout out to their ancestors.
So, what about you, Brother Lumumba? Have you ever heard of ancestor Kwesi Balagoon?
I say absolutely.
All right. Let me just ask the folks on the behind the stage and just kind of get a consensus. Is there anyone that is not familiar with him?
I'm not. It's Moses. I'm not familiar with him. I was kicked out of the while I was playing. I was kicked out and I had to come back in, so I missed the vital part. Really.
Okay. All right. Well, you can always Google his name and you will find an abundance amount of information. But again, we just want to make sure we do not forget those that definitely came in the movement and made some very serious kinds of statements and input. And again, whether people agree or disagree with the ideology or philosophies at that time, comparatively speaking, it was definitely progressive, comparatively speaking. Okay. In a few minutes, we're going to talk with our Baba, our elder, Baba Babosi. For those that do not know, the first of our people have, in fact, been sent to Liberia from Cuba and Venezuela. That did happen this week, and the projection is that, several thousand more will soon be sent. There is apparently some form of agreements that have been made. And so because, we know we need to get information directly from sources that is, relatively known to be not only connected, but, very astute in certain areas of things. And so I called Baba Babosi, and as usual, he was, he responded right away. So I want to get his views about that. And also, kind of get some updates on Cuba and Venezuela as well. Before we do, can we go to the clip with Baba Kwame Ture? And at this particular point in time, it was Stokely Carmichael. His name was then Stokely Carmichael. And again, I want to share with you some of what our young folks were saying and doing at a certain time period. And I want people to begin to do a comparative analysis in terms of today, and then begin to look at why we're not seeing a certain type of fervor that, really encompasses a certain, type of essence. And I'll break that down a little further as we proceed. But I want to make sure that we also focus on, since next week, folks will be doing the March on Washington. I wanted to make sure that people did not forget that there was a march also in 1966. And it, of course, was called the March Against Fear. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we do, let's hear from Kwame to Ray at this point in time, of course, it is Stokely Carmichael. And I want you to pay very close attention, for those who haven't seen this, of how journalists, and this is what Brother Malcolm also talked about, how journalists, European-centered journalists, and that could be of any complexion. That's why I say European-centered journalists. Watch the tactic that's being displayed here. Somebody need to put the microphone on mute, please, because we're getting a lot of background noise. Okay, and so again, I want you to pay close attention because this is typical. Let's hear it, Brother Lumumba.
Indeed. I'm going to be sharing these links in the chat as well, so folks can pick them up there in addition.
Okay.
You're one black man who went to a good, essentially white high school in the city of New York. You obviously have had a good education. That's a good many of the people who work with you here in SNCC can say the same thing. And we're saying that, and you're a black man who came from a New York ghetto.
And we're saying that there's a system that allows for 1 or 2 black people to get out. And that's the rationale for keeping other black people down.
And it has nothing to do with the unwillingness or inability of the Negro to help himself and to work hard.
That's the rationale, that the reason why black people aren't this is because they're lazy, unambitious, stupid, have rhythm, and they eat watermelon.
You call on the black man to refuse to respond to his draft call.
That is correct. And we will continue to do so while there's breath in our bodies.
Do you really believe that the military policies of the United States are designed to exterminate the black man, as you've said?
I most certainly do. I look at the recent statement by racist McNamara, who says that 30% of the people that are going to be drafted now under his new system are going to be black people. And that's nothing more than black urban removal.
The white liberal who supported civil rights for so long with time and effort and money, what is your feeling about him?
Well, I think that there's no reason why they should stop supporting the movement now. I certainly feel that if they're genuinely interested in black people, and since black people have charted a course, they believe in that program, they will continue to give to it. They need more white people to civilize whites. They need them to civilize the savages in Cicero, who throw rocks and bricks at a peaceful and lovable black man like Dr. Martin Luther King, who would not even hurt a fly. Well, that's very important, because our uncles and our fathers and our older brothers died in World War I fighting Nazism to protect the Poles, and those same Poles turn around and throw rocks and bricks at us after we died to save their lives. And people talk about we are savages.
Mr. Carmichael, if you had the chance to stand up in front of the white community and say anything you desired, say to them, understand me, white man, what would you say?
I would say, understand yourself, white man, that the white man's burden should not have been preached in Africa, but it should have been preached among you, that you need now to civilize yourself. You have moved to destroy and disrupt. You have taken people away. You have broken down their systems, and you have called all that civilization. And we who have suffered at this are now saying to you, you are the killers of the dreams. You are the savages. Yes, it is you who have always been uncivilized. Civilize yourself.
All righty. Wow. And again, you would think that we're talking about right now to some degree, even though we're not dealing with the draft or whatever, but all the other stuff, kind of like going on as we speak. At any rate, I just want to put that out there as we proceed with doing analysis, connecting the black dots, bringing history from the past into the present so that we can, have a better capability of moving into the future. Lastly, this, of course, is the 60th year anniversary of the first Black Student Union being formed. And so in November, we're looking to do our first MWM National Black Student Movement Society session conference. Okay, because again, what we realize is that it was our students and young adults that really did some stuff that made things change. The freedom rides, and I mean, all of our people. But I'm just saying, I don't feel that the input that students really had, it has been really brought forward. So we're going to make sure that it happened and help prepare them for the next steps. Because for some of us, a lot of people are talking to each other, and that's fine. We should also always socialize. But to provide the apparatuses that's going to bring these young folks forward in such a way that is focused on justice and liberation. Lastly, what we say to our people is when you encourage our children, our young adults to get a quote unquote good education and go to college, are they simultaneously being also taught, told, encouraged to make certain that they bring some of that back to the community? And so from our analysis, 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. Which is why most of our professionals in various areas do little to nothing in our communities nationwide. But that's all another conversation. Let's get ready to go to, I know Baba's over there laughing. Let's get ready to go to Baba Bambosi. And before we get his analysis on and report on Cuba and Venezuela, I just want to get his thoughts on our opening for tonight. Go ahead, Baba. You can open your mic.
Give thanks. Welcome aboard, Baba Bambosi Shango. You gotta hit that microphone button to unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
And good evening to your guests and your audience, and thank you for this invitation.
Excuse me, Bobby. Before you begin, if you could give us, for those who are not familiar with you or your work, if you could give us a brief introduction of yourself.
Sure. My name is Bambosi Shango. I'm an organizer with the All African People's Revolutionary Party, GC. I've worked with a number of organizations and groups over the years. I've also worked extensively with the National Network on Cuba and the Venezuela Solidarity Network. And I thank you for bringing up these 2 countries today, but we have a couple more that we should add, but we'll go into that later. I would like to just read some figures, if I may, on this question that our sister raised about these countries accepting blanket unknown individuals from all over the world, actually, but yes, specifically Cuba and Venezuela and Colombia. Here's some figures for you. Liberia received $5 million for this migration management activity. Rwanda got 7.5 million. Botswana, which is a new country in Southern Africa, received 5.1 million. Equatorial Guinea got 7.5. Uganda, and unfortunately they don't have how much is listed, but I'm sure they got more than most. Ghana, again, is not listed on how much they got, but they did receive a direct payment in exchange for putting folks up. And so too did the Southern Sudanese, but I don't know what section of the Southern Sudanese got it, because as you know, it's in the midst of a civil war there. Uh, there is something abnormal to take people who come seeking help and refuge to a country and ship them off to some place that they've never been, that they know nobody, and that you didn't tell them where they were going until they arrived. And this is all part of uh, the nut in the White House uh, processes of trying to stop people from coming to the U.S. because, of course, they fighting against the blackening. They're saying that eventually, if they allow folks from South and Central America and Caribbean and Africa to just enter the U.S., the country will not be a white country in the near future. But that's true whether they let folks in or not. So I think that we have to blame it there. I would like to say that the situation in Cuba is not getting any better. As a matter of fact, they're now looking at installing thousands of solar panels that they recently received from China, because even if they got oil at this point, the grill is too old to really do what it should do, and it will break eventually soon, and it is unsustainable. But that's not just the case in Cuba. This question of old electronic grills are propping up at places in the world that you would not expect it. For example, there was a 2-day blackout in Nigeria because the grill went out. There was blackouts in Australia because the grill went out. Of course, 2 years ago, there was blackouts in Houston after a flash flood and partially global warming produced weather conditions. So it is not sustainable. And eventually alternative sources will have to be found. However, the folks who own the current sources are trying to milk it for everything they can get before they abandon it. When they abandon it, there is a question of what will happen with us. Because if you don't have electricity today, living conditions become pretty difficult. It can actually revert to kind of pre 1500 AD conditions overnight. If you have no refrigerator, you can't store food. And not only can you not store food, all the food that you have will probably be destroyed in 2 days, 3 days. And there's a host of other things. You might not be able to get water. That's why you hear folks currently talking about upcoming water wars. That if you can't get electricity to pump water, you might not get any. And although Africa has over 60% of the world's usable water force, it is not serviceable, it's not potable. So you still have this problem, even though you're amongst folks who have a lot. Uh, the situation in Venezuela is really going to the worst. It's unfortunate that we do have to finally admit that neocolonialism is in charge in Venezuela, that the U.S. is imposing all kind of changes in its constitution, in its economic and political life that will ensure the U.S., and not just the U.S., but also Israel, maintain a stranglehold on Venezuela for years to come. There's other questions that has to be looked at. As you know, our brothers and sisters in the western area of Colombia suffered a tremendous earthquake earlier last week. And then this week, there was another earthquake in Peru that was in the center of the state, not close to any major cities. So their death toll and their property destruction are much less. But folks in Colombia didn't have that sturdy houses to begin with. One of our little brothers sent us a photo of his house is totally collapsed. He was bloody, looked like somebody was fighting with him. Had blood all over his face and everything. So those are some of the current situations we're looking at. And there are people who are trying to give some assistance that understand that the Red Cross won't do it and the U.S. military won't do it. The U.S. military rushed into Venezuela with more troops after the earthquake, and they basically just got in the way. So currently they have taken over the Caracas airport. They're building a naval base and a U.S. military station at the Caracas airport, and they're bringing in more troops, but that has nothing to do with what they say it has to do with the earthquake. And it's no assistance to the earthquake. When the troops came in, they got in the way of people who were trying to rescue folks who were on the collapsed buildings, etc., in Caracas and the other cities. So, my sister, that's my small report. Thank you so very much.
All right. Thank you, Baba. So, Brother Lumumba, let's open up the floor and see if there's any questions for Baba Babalusi or comments in regards to, what he just shared with us.
Indeed. All right, family. So with that being said, I want to pull everyone back up. If there's any questions or comments for Baba Shango, based on the recent reports on Venezuela and Cuba, some of our recent geopolitical activities. Any questions or comments, family?
Interesting. And particularly as it pertains to the people that are now being sent into Africa. I'm just curious about what folk think that's really about. Or are we thinking about it?
All right, Amy. Let me put that out there once again, opening the floor. Any questions or comments for those who are with us? Yes.
Okay. I think I want to first say I really appreciate Brother Bambosi's analysis and comments. We need people who understand what's going on and have investigated and know the concrete situation that we're faced with. We cannot underestimate the value of such information. My problem is, what are we going to do about it? I say revolution is the solution. We need a new constitution, and we can't do that process without voting, in my opinion. And so that's where I am. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that addition, Baba Moses. And let me bring that back to Baba Shango. Do you have any response to that?
Well, you know, I don't think that either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party is willing or have the backbone to try to make the necessary changes, the changes that are necessary to allow people to live a peaceful and healthy and happy life in the United States. And the problem with both the Democrat and Republican Party is that they're one party. They're just two wings of the same party, in that a political party in all reality represents a specific economic interest. And when you have both parties that represent capitalism and imperialism, then you in fact have one bird, two wings.
Ashe.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that addition, Baba Shango. All right. Let me open up the floor one more again for any questions or comments for Baba Shango.
All right. I just have a quick request. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Baba, but I do want to put it out there because we're talking about politics or politrics. We're getting ready to put our committee together for the observance, the 55th year observance of the National Black Political Convention that took place, of course, in Gary, Indiana in 1972. And so for next year, we're planning to go to Gary. We're going to talk a little bit more about that because there's a big crisis in Gary right as we speak. They haven't had power for like 9 or 10 days now. I did speak with Dr. Afrique, who lives in Gary, and she couldn't even use her phone, but for so much because there's no electricity. But by her being a doctor, she's able to at least charge it somewhat. I guess at the hospital, but that won't hold long when she leaves there. But anyway, my question to Baba Bosie is: we're putting together what we call, for lack of a better terminology, a elders council for next year's commemoration, and I just want to make sure that that we certainly would extend or are extending an invitation to you to support, advise in whatever way possible.
Thank you, my sister. Thank you very much. It's good that you talk about this convention because it was one of the largest political convention of Black people held in the early 70s.
Yes.
And it was attended by all different sectors and groupings of our people. Almost every organization was there. And we thank you very much. Mayor Hatchett was a close friend of Kwame Ture, and that's how he got there.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And again, this will serve as a prelude because if we're going to move forward, we have to begin to identify what is our national Black political agenda. I mean, we know that we are international, of course, but at the same time, our communities are falling apart all over the U.S. what's left of them between gentrification and sellout and all other kind of stuff. We don't even really have Black communities anymore. And so we have Black neighborhoods, but in terms of really representing in the way that I was able to grow up in, we're not seeing that now. So we have to look at that to see how are we going to prepare the next generation as well as sustain whatever we possibly can now. Again, one of the reasons why I played Baba Kwame Ture earlier is because he was a student and grew and developed, you see. So we have to look at what processes are we actually putting in place today to assure that kind of holistic growth and development. So I digress. We'll move forward. But anyway, I put that out there to everyone because very soon various folk will be getting information about being a delegate or working on a task force or what have you. And again, this is just the prelude. One of the objectives right now is going to be the development of a national Black political agenda. There's an election coming in 2 years. And even though we don't advocate that stuff, what we do know is we live in communities. And rather than having other people to just do whatever the hell they want to do, we could be a little more, if not organized, astute to do some things that we can do in our community. So again, you'll be getting more information about that. Even actually tomorrow when we do our press conference, when we begin to officiate our salute to the 123 countries that, of course, voted on March the 25th, declaring the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity. So for those who are interested, you need to check that out tomorrow at 3, because we got a lot of information we're going to be sharing. Back to you, Brother Lumumba.
All right. Absolutely. Thanks for those additions. So I had 2 questions, Baba Shango. So one, I wanted to ask, I guess whichever one you find fitting first. One of them was kind of in conjunction with Baba Moses, who was talking about the Democratic and Republican Party, which myself, I kind of find it a bit counterintuitive to mention those in the same vein as revolution. Right. So I wanted to ask your opinion if we cannot depend on the Democratic or Republican Party in terms of social political revolutionary actions and activism as it pertains to international or geopolitical aspects. What do you believe in your area of expertise, some of the things that people can do, or some of the apparatuses that people can or should be able to utilize currently in battling some of this international oppression? That's question number 1. And then question number 2, do you believe that it is a connection or a tie-in? And, just to further share information, I saw a pushback or a counter to the 75 countries that the Trump administration had removed visas from. So I've seen some litigation with that. So I just wanted to kind of see if those things connected, any of those dots connected for you as we see the deportations that are happening in the Southern Americas.
Yeah, I think, that there was a recent court ruling that overthrew that declaration about 65 countries, the blanket declaration. And this is a game they play. They're now saying that if he wants to do that, he has to give more and better rationale than what he gave.
Yes, sir.
So, I'm sure they will come back with something else. The Democratic Party has done a lot to co-opt our movement and to bring our movement into the party, knowing that it does not matter what we decide once we're in. If it's relevant, it's not going to happen. And you can look at from the time that Mrs. Hamer went to the Democratic Party and the problems and issues that she had, and, you know, right on up to the current. I think that in a number of places where you have progressive movements like Black Lives Matter, etc., the Democratic Party is taking a concrete position that they should try to overtake and or misdirect these movements. But on the other hand, you have what people see as a ignoring of their causes, etc., from the Republican Party. So they have thrown their fate to the Democratic Party. But the real issue is, if you want to make decisions on power, if you want to decide what will benefit our communities, etc., then we have to organize, and we have to create organizations throughout our community. And these organizations will need political education so that they can make analysis that are beneficial to us. And so this is what a lot of people look at as hard and difficult work, and we go for the easy. But the easy does not always benefit us. Usually it do not benefit us at all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Lastly, because it kind of connects things together, and connecting with Sister Empress was sharing. Do you? What is your opinion on uh, the impact that a current resurgence of such things as the national black, redeveloping, reigniting a national black political agenda, as well as the black student unions and black student movements. Do you believe a new era, a new resurgence of that could have a similar or perhaps more of an impact or less of an impact today as it has historically?
I think that as an organization, it cannot help but have an impact. I think that the question of students is one that we have to look at seriously, because students have the responsibility to study and to break down large and complex information, and they can do that within our community. They can bring the analysis that we need. And so it becomes incumbent on them to allow themselves to be recruited into a mass that will take the responsibilities for doing the necessary political education. And we must always remind them of the statement by our brother Franz Fanon, who says each generation must discover their mission and either fulfill it or betray it. And
Mm,
that is what is the role of the students.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, I was just, I want to add again. I was just thinking more recently, Baba, because I've been, been having recent discourse and, having dreams and, certain downloads or crown loads or revelations. And I was thinking of a concept, and I just wanted to get your opinion on it because it just seems more recently, we're kind of many many individuals, across different spans and spectrums, old, young, um, politically inclined, those that are not, Democratic, Republican, kind of seems to be spread across the board. That we seem to be in a heavy state of cognitive dissonance, right? And just an increasing and really concerning aspect of being able to regurgitate rhetoric and dealing with cognitive dissonance and dogma that has really seemed to have replaced critical and analytical thinking. So I was working on something currently. It brought me to the aspect of what I was coining mental menopause, right? And so what's your take? What's your opinion on that matter? It seems like I was calling it a revelation of revolution, the analysis paralysis. What's your take on what's happening currently? With the this type of pontification ideology, so on and so forth. I really can't. I'm trying to put my finger on it and address it in a manner that's productive, and progressive. What's your thoughts on that, Baba?
Yeah, my basic thoughts are that this happens because there is a vacuum, and
Mm,
nature hates a vacuum.
mm,
And so when there's this vacuum of understanding, of learning, of analyzing, etc., then what takes its place is the nonsense that you get on commercial TV, on social media, etc. And there is a acceptance of these analysis that comes out on social media, a lot of them that makes no logic and no sense, but people see them on social media or on the TV or in the newspapers, and they accept it because of where it is, because it's in the newspapers, because it's on the radio, on the TV, it must be true. And nobody says, well, let's actually take it and analyze it. Let's do a little research, etc. You know, and again, I hate to be somebody who quotes all the time, but Mao Zedong says, no observation, no rights to interpretation. Say no participation, no rights to speak. And you have a number of people on in the media, on the television, who has not participated and not observed, has not researched anything, but give you a very intelligent answer or opinion on what they think that situation is, even though it might not have anything to do with the situation itself. So I think that what you're saying is correct, and that it is upon all of us to struggle against that.
all right, all right. Much appreciated, Shay Baba. Thank you for those additions. Let me one more time bring it back to the floor once again for questions and comments before I bring it back to Sister Empress. Any additions?
Can I jump in here?
Moses. Yeah, you got something?
Okay. Okay. There's a way that seems right, but in the end leads to destruction. There's a way that sounds good, left informed, really revolutionary informed. But then when all the dust clears, it's right in essence because it leads to right behavior that benefits the right. And I'm telling you that when I say vote, you automatically say Democrat and Republican. That's how brainwashed you are.
Oh, okay. Bobby, would you like to elaborate further on, who or what we should be voting for, or what's your position on voting?
We should be voting for people who represent our interests. And I'll leave it right there.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that addition. Okay. Before I continue, I'm not sure if you wanted to have any response to that, Baba Shango.
No, bro.
Okay, good. Thanks. All right, much appreciated. With that being said, I'm going to the floor once again for any additional questions or comments before I bring it back to Sister Empress. All right, all right. Let me bring it back to Sister Empress. Give thanks and thank you for the excellent insight and information, Baba Chandra.
Oh yes, yes, yes. You gotta love these dialogues because they're just so edifying, and that puts it mildly. And Baba Babazi, I do have one other question. Is kind of not what we've been talking about, but I would be remiss if I did not ask your thoughts about what we're seeing today, particularly in Mississippi. I mean, of course, there's some other locations, but I'm like, wow, this is what year are we in? What decade are we in? So my question is, what are your thoughts about what we're seeing with the increase of reported, not to say that it wasn't already happening, but the reported hangings of our people? What are your thoughts about that in this day and age?
I think, again, this shows our need for organization
Mm-hmm.
because organization will protect us. The better organized we are, the better protected we are. I think that what has happened is that the right wing in America has been emboldened on every level through these years of Trump, and this is what you see.
And so, based on what we've already talked about with how the representation and the other kind of things that are kind of engaged in when it comes to movement stuff, because that has become so weak and so diluted, it seems like, now, of course, it's a lot easier to do these things, because for real, who's going to do anything? Who's going to respond in such a way that it might at least have folks to kind of think twice? And we did have that, by the way, family. This is why I oftentimes will share different things about the 60s and the 70s, because that 10-year period, actually 20-year period, because some of it was going on in the 50s, but that period, folks, was no joke. They were no joke. This stuff we seeing now is like, what? Anyway. But so the question is, again, do you think that because of the lack of commitment, discipline, focus on real justice and liberation for our people, do you feel that this is perhaps part of the other reason or lends to why we're now seeing more of the kinds of unaliving of our people?
Yes, I'm in agreement with that. I also think that it's because of the current milieu that we're in under Trump. It's easier to think you can do these things and get away with it, and in a number of cases you can get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you have a state government and state governors and city council people saying if you see a demonstration and you feel threatened, you can run them over with your car. What is that?
Right. And also that you could be arrested for protesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm also just saying that the ordinary, everyday white man now feels justified in killing you with his car because the government said he can do that.
Mm.
And if he can kill you with his car, why can't he hang you?
Mm. Wow. Okay, well, I yield. Those are my questions. Back to you, Brother Lumumba.
All right. Well, I think that is all of the questions that we had thus far. All right.
Thank you, Brother Lumumba.
All right. Give thanks. So thank you for joining us this evening, Baba Shango.
All right. Well, hopefully Sister Janet and Janine will be calling in a few minutes. We're running behind with them, but they are trying to get in from what I've been told. So hopefully they'll be able to connect within the next few minutes. At any rate, moving right along, this right now, family, is just such a critical time. Not like we haven't been in critical times before, but this is, of course, interesting in this particular time period, particularly given the fact that we have such a increase or capability in utilizing technology. And so you got to know that that's different. But the question has to be, are we going to utilize it to really better advance us, or just, continue to allow the machinery of technology to, be able to have more of an advantage? Right. So again, this is some of the conversations, some of the discussions that we definitely need to have in the very near future. And okay, Brother Lumumba, what do we have in store? And I'm going to give my report very shortly as well for tomorrow's press conference for Ubuntu. But again, for those who do not know, the Recharge Genocide 21 is now moving forward. This year is the 75th year commemoration of Paul Robeson and William Patterson taking the petition to the United Nations. And with that said, we don't like to just commemorate history. It's good to do that. It's good to have the conversations. It's good to have the recognition. But at some point, it has to be, so how are we furthering it? Literally, based on what our ancestors, scholars, historians, etc., showed us. So this is what we're now doing with the Recharge Genocide 21, taking things to the next level. Now, again, given the fact that a historical vote took place on March the 25th, one of the assessments that we've made, and I welcome any comments or thoughts about what I'm getting ready to say, is that for quite a while, a lot of what has been going on has been kind of internally, for lack of a better terminology. And I understand that, the growth and development process needs to, sometimes need for that to happen. I know I've experienced it with developing MWM and taking it to the next level. But at some point, it has to be a reality of it, of really, making sure that the masses of the people are in fact engaged. And so what we've watched these past 10 years is that while reparations and the conversation and the work and the research and so forth has definitely grown, there's an incredible impact, some confusion, but that's life. But what we're also seeing is the limited effort for there to be any real connection to the masses of our people nationwide. Realistically, in our communities, not just a Zoom meeting or a conference, but in the hood. Okay. And so this is one of the things that the We Charge Genocide 21 is committed to doing. And we will give you some insight into that starting tomorrow. But with that said, what are your thoughts about it, family? What are your thoughts about the fact that we now have reached a point where other countries do agree that some things need to happen? So the question has to be, are we organized in order to engage in that manner? And when I say, are we organized, I'm saying in such a way that it does, in fact, include the masses of our people. Because presently, for the most part, that's not happening. So what are your thoughts about that?
All right. Let me bring it to the floor. Any additions on the recent developments with the Declaration of the 123 Nations and putting forth the initiative stating that the transatlantic slave trade and chattel slavery was indeed the greatest crime against humanity. All right, so I wanted to bring that to those that are on board with us in the yard. And what is your opinions on that type of declaration and the possibilities that it might allow with us to continue to organize with aspects of reparatory justice? Baba Shang, do you have any insights, any thoughts on that?
Well, it's good that this was a vote at the United Nations, but it also shows the weakness of the United Nations when, several small or large countries can hold the majority of that organization at bay and say that what the world is saying is almost irrelevant. I think that is a continuation of what came out of the African conference in South Africa in 2000, the World Conference on Africa, where people said that slavery was a crime against humanity and should have always been so. But the reality is slavery was always a crime against humanity. And it is still today. So I think that what it means is that we now have to look at what reparation would look like and also what repatriation would look like, because that's part of it, and also what kind of punishment this reparation would involve, because there has to be a penalty to ensure that who did it the first time don't do it again. And as you know, Rubio went to the conference in Europe earlier this year and suggested that Europe should reclaim its colonies.
Wow.
So you know what that means?
Wow. And Baba, that's really interesting because, and I know you probably don't know because we don't usually put it out there. We just put R4J when we talk about, our plan of action and how it is that we plan to proceed. We have a formula and it's called R, the letter R, the number 4, and the letter J. Now, isn't it just so wonderfully interesting that with what you just said, let me share what the R4J represents. and each area has its own mode of operations based on law. So the R1, of course, is reparations, right? Now this is all remedy oriented. So the first one is reparations. The second one is restitution. Because one of our things is that we are, and you'll hear more about this tomorrow, we're going to be requesting a meeting with Pope Leo. Because recently he made two very interesting public statements. And both of them had to do with his position on enslavement. And so we now want to know, what does that mean in real time? So again, we're going to give some insight into that tomorrow. So again, the first one is reparations. The second one is restitution. Because again, we know that there's institutions and corporations that were engaged in this human trafficking. And by the way, this is also why that vote was important. Because the language that was utilized is a little different. And this is the kind of stuff that's now on record, you see, and this is what makes this different. So to say human trafficking, this is actually what's in the document. So again, reparations, restitution. The third R is literally retribution, meaning punishment. So under international law, to examine, as you just said, and it's so wonderful that you're the first one that peaked it, or that I've heard say that. And so we had this conversation on one of our previous New Day Resurrection, I think with Brother Jamoke, and we said specifically, what will we put in place in order to deter any future kind of actions in the form of retribution, punishment. So that, again, is part of our conversation in terms of development. And then the fourth R is, of course, restoration. And all of them are distinct areas in law as well. So this is why, again, for next year to hold the commemoration of the National Black Political Convention, it will enable us, it'll be structured very different from before, because we have some very specific goals and objectives, and we learned some stuff from the past. So we definitely want to try to avoid some unnecessary stuff. So some of the things will be very focused. So again, these are some of the conversation, some of the forums, some of the caucusing, so that we can come out with some proposed plans and put them in place. Lastly, Baba Bombozi, do you recall what's it called? The Black Manifesto? Do you recall the Black Manifesto?
I do. I remember reading it.
Right?
But it's been a long time.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's been at least 50 years. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I wanted to, again, share with people the kind of extensive research that we've done to show people what our people already did like 50 years ago. And we're not saying that it's the all in all and it's the bomb diggity, and no. But 50 years ago, some stuff was put in place, and there were some entities that were, in fact, attempting to do those things. And so the Black Manifesto, which was introduced at the church in New York, Riverside, it talked about, very clearly what Black folks should be getting. 50 years ago.
Yeah, James Foreman,
absolutely.
Please, a point of information. Mm-hmm. This is Baba, Dr. Onajiman. We point of information. Foreman is usually credited with that since he was the spokesperson. Mm-hmm. But if you have accurate documents, standing behind him on his right shoulder was Irving Davis,
Yes.
Irving Davis was the co-founder of the Patrice Lumumba Coalition, as well as the executive director of the Pan-African Skills Movement. And because he left this planet before Ilambe Breath did, he's not known. So I would ask the audience to, anytime you mention the manifesto and James Foreman, please be historically correct and mention Irving Davis as well, if you'd be so considerate. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, what we tell people to do is, once we give them information, it's the title that we're really focusing on, the document. And then what we're hoping that folks will do is take the time to do the research, because we've provided over the years an abundance amount of information, and unfortunately, for the most part, it has not been reciprocated. And so now we're kind of, lessening a lot of extensive stuff. So again, I'm giving reference to the document. And if folks go online, they can certainly get an abundance amount of information if they're interested. If
time permits, I would like to respond to two questions that came up.
I was actually going to come to you next, Baba Anaji. So I'm glad you chimed in, because I was going to bring those questions to you. So you're right on time. If you had any addition, first of all, if you could introduce yourself to let anyone in the listening audience kind of just a brief introduction of who you are and some of the work that you're involved in. And then if you wanted to chime into any of the previously, any of the previous dialogue that we've been engaged in, because I didn't hear from you this evening, so I was hoping that you was going to chime in. All right. So, let's give thanks, Dr. Onaji.
Much appreciated, but I did kind of interject a point of information, so I want the Empress to finish her train of thought.
Oh, no, I was finished.
Okay. Permission to speak?
Yes, Brother Moomba was inviting you to do so.
Okay. I was actually thinking about an elder in the room.
So,
thank you, Sante Sana. I'm Baba J. Dr. Onaji Mawid, and as far as introduction, I guess, I don't know, what can I say? Lifetime Pan-African internationalist, studied with Ilambe Breath and Irving Davis, went on to work with Nkoba, currently the founding and current male co-chair of its health commission, and a few other things, but I'll just leave it there. In terms of the questions, in terms of what happened on March the 25th, I think it was it was astute of Empress to point out that the language has changed from the transatlantic slave trade to kidnapped, human trafficking of enslaved Africans, which came from us on this side of the ocean, and chattel slavery as the gravest crimes against humanity. This is a major advancement in calling it for what it is, because we know what the oppressor does will always try to switch the language and cover up the reality. That's what criminals do. Criminals, they work at trying to change people's reality in terms of what's seen right in front of them, right? To see, to analyze, and to act. So that all those countries, I don't know what the count was, 125, 26 countries voted yes, is saying something, right? That they would be brave enough to say that, because remember, anytime you make a statement, there can be a following consequence. If we go back to Durban, South Africa in 2001, many of the countries, put it like this, many of the organizations that went to Durban that was funded by Jewish organizations got defunded right after that. So there's a consequence for standing up for truth. So these countries decided to do that. And even the ones that abstained is a statement in itself as well. Why? Because they said they were not going to kowtow and just follow what United States did. It, of course, the lapdog Israel as well. and certainly Argentina. So the fact that many of the European countries abstain is still a step forward in the right direction. Major campaign in terms of the organizing that the president of Ghana did going to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, prior to coming to the United Nations with that. So he was already organizing this very important statement to be made. I would have to say, in addition to that going back to the earlier conversation about students and their role in the revolution, in the role of nation building, has always been critical, and that's always been the most critical because they're young, they're energetic, and they're basically more idealistic than older people who have something more to lose than young people. We also know that COINTELPRO was a frontal attack on all our most progressive organizations, and we're still feeling the consequences of COINTELPRO. And we know that other programs under different names have also been put forward. So until we have a fuller understanding of the attack against us, will we be better prepared to organize and to educate, agitate, organize? As far as organizing the masses, which of course is the critical thing. I was looking at when you mentioned Kwame Ture. I happened to pull up the link, and then next to it, he has a whole discussion on raising the difference between conscious and unconsciousness, was phenomenal. I have to go back and see that again. But we know that after the civil rights movement and young people were involved to the extent that they were, that's when the federal government joined with the mafia and flooded our community with heroin. We know that it was a frontal attack in terms of pushing back the student movement so they wouldn't draw the connection of living in a domestic colony. And it was during that time that Dr. Mutulu Shakur and some brothers from the Young Lords created a detox program in South Bronx using acupuncture. So during this month of August, of Black August, Cobra has added to the calendar to celebrate the life of Dr. Mutulu Shakur, born August the 8th, 1950. And we were able to make the declaration declaring that day the Dr. Mutulu Shakur Community Health Day. And we want everyone to do that every August 8th. To do what? To look at the film Dope is Death, to study, as we're supposed to study anyway in Black August, and to teach our young people about acupuncture. We can just start with the 5 points, right? The regular points in the ear. And you don't even have to use needles. You can use seeds. This is one of the projects that N'COBRA's Health Commission is involved with. So also I put in the chat 2 other references. One is in May 17, 2025, a number of reparations organizations came together in Washington and created the National Reparations Leadership Assembly. So it's not just N'COBRA, it's other organizations as well that's saying that we need to continue to organize. And because of the war, the miseducation war against our young people, and remember, also given the level of media warfare that is taking place, our children, our young people have never been under such an attack. At one point, children grew up from the tutelage from their family, from their community. Now, anywhere from what? I'm just hypothetically 75 to 95% of their information is coming from an alien source. So we have greater weapons against us than we've ever had before, given the level of technology in terms of the media, which means that the number of young people who are educated about our history, in fact, has dwindled. And we have to go back to the basics. We have to go back to Saturday schools. and giving our children that direct information. So I just want to bring to your attention that there is efforts to, in fact, engage the masses. The National Reparations Leadership Assembly met again this year as well, and we will continue to do that. I just so happen to be a co-chair of one of the committees that's supposed to consolidate that movement in terms of reparation organizations, and look forward to working with you, my dear sister. I'm complete. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Brother Najee. I think I do see Sister Janine. I can't really see her clearly, but we do have one of our sisters with us. And so we're going to get ready to go directly to her because we're running behind. But I just want to say this because, what I've learned over the past decade in particular is that some of these things have gotten worse because people are not speaking out about it. And I think I was at the last one in Washington, D.C., Dr. Najee. At any rate, we've been saying certain things for decades. And yes, the crack cocaine epidemic and the other things that off-white people have done to us in our communities nationwide, as they always have. I mean, that's nothing new. There's always something that they're doing. The lynchings, it's, year after year after year, none of this changes. It just escalates at different time periods. We know this by now, all right? And so the point that I'm saying is that I know I personally have sat back and watched how these conversations continue and goes nowhere for the most part when it comes to certain things. And this really has to be, said and dealt with because a lot of the younger folks are, in fact, not feeling it. They're not feeling it. But anyway, I digress. That's a conversation for another time. But I think it is time to speak truth to power. We know that, if not COINTELPRO, some other pro has been in effect for at least the past 100 years. Big ups to the Honorable Marcus Garvey Day the other day. And so, this has been going on for as long as we have been able to see the recordings of it, from Ida B. Wells to you name it. It's always something. So anyway, let us go to our sister and get this kind of reflection on how we need to proceed. We're first going to do reflection in terms of, we've talked about political prisoners, and by the way, we've done something every week on political prisoners. We have Baba Jalil on doing our classroom twice. We did our tribute to Dr. Mutula Shakur. So, again, we do this work ongoing every week and bring the information to our people. One of the conversations from last week with the two sisters from Louisiana for the event that Brother Shep went to, it focused on our women as political prisoners and freedom fighters, which oftentimes does not get the kind of recognition or embracing realistically. I mean, periodically, but for real. And so we want to continue a little bit of that conversation tonight in the fact that here in Philadelphia, we had examples of Black women who were, in fact, political prisoners, who were, in fact, tortured, who were, in fact, all types of injustices. And here's the catcher, family. Not just then, 1978, 1985, but even the types of heinous things that are still done as a result of the human remains. And so it's really important for people to realize that this stuff is not going to stop. And we need to stop acting like we think it is anytime soon and start coming up with what we're going to do. I'm with Brother Moses on that one tonight. What are we talking about actually doing beyond the conversations? So with that said, we're going to go over to our sister, Janine. Greetings, sister.
On the move, everybody. On the move.
On the move.
On the move, on the move.
Yeah, sorry.
Sister Janine, if you could begin, before you begin, excuse me, if you could briefly introduce yourself and let those that are listening audience who are not familiar with you, just get a brief introduction and some of your history and work.
Okay, on the move. My name is Janine Africa. I am one of the Move 9 that was arrested in 1978 for the murder of a cop that we did not do and spent 41 years in prison, innocent. And because of John Africa and all the support and fighting on the streets for our release, we were released in 2019 after 41 years. I was in prison, and during that prison time, my family was bombed and murdered. My son was in the house. All of our children, animals, sisters and brothers, and they were murdered because they were pushing for an honest investigation into the unjust imprisonment of the Move 9. So, as Sister Filet was saying, there has been a history of violence and atrocities against the MOVE organization for a long time, for almost 50 years. But despite that, we are still here. We are still fighting. They have not stopped anything. They have not stopped the teaching of John Africa. They have not stopped the MOVE organization. And we're going to continue to fight, which really brings me to y'all conversation about the situation happening today, because this is the very thing John Africa had us telling people 50 years ago, that this is not just a MOVE issue. This is an issue of freedom, of justice, of righteousness. And that if you sit back and allow this system to persecute MOVE, it will come to your doorstep. It'll spread like any cancer and be right at your door. And now we are facing this situation, the reality of what John Africa told people 50 years ago, because people are now experiencing the injustices that MOVE had to go through, and they're not revolutionaries. They're not speaking out against the government. They are just there and available for the cops and the officials to do them like they did slavery. For real, slavery never stopped. They're just starting to face it crystallized now, but this is what John Africa was telling people 50 years ago, and now we're faced with it again. And like Soleil said, what are you going to do? What are people going to do? Because the situation with the ICE, I know those people never thought they would be in this position. It's legal. They have the authority to do it, but like John Africa says, just because it's legal don't make it right. Nobody thought that they would be getting snatched up off the streets, their children out of schools. It just makes me think about the white trade slaves. They went over Africa and just snatched those people, the men, women, and children up and brought them over here. And they're doing the same thing with the people for this ICE. They're not putting them on plantations, but they got them in those concentration camps, waiting to be shipped out for no reason, just because they are Spanish or Mexican. So it's coming back to, what are people going to do? Are you going to just sit back and complain or take action? This is what we've faced with, and it's not going to change. It's not going to slow down. It's escalating. So people have to face it. Be real. The reality of it. You can't sit back comfortably in your home and feel like if you don't say anything, do anything, you'll be safe. This is the reality of it. Who's safe? What did those people do to be rounded up? Some of them murdered, killed, their children snatched out of school, taking their kids out of school and putting them in those concentration camps. I mean, what more do people want? And it's not going to stop there, because Trump and all of those money people running this country have a mission, and their mission is, as Trump said, to make America great again. And you know what he's saying. You know what he's saying. Take it back to the good old boys, the good old days where slavery was legal and they were running things the way they want to. That's what they talking about, taking it back to. Taking the people's votes, taking the people's rights for anything. And if you say anything against them, you getting put in jail, getting shot, whatever. So, people have to realize they better watch. This man has told people what he wanted to do. And this is one of the things that he said he wanted to do. Don't be fooled. You better know what he mean when he said make America great again.
Ashe.
I say.
All right. Sister Janine, I know you don't have much time, but I just wanted to share briefly some of what you and Sister Janet experienced while being incarcerated. I think it's very important that people are very clear that she's sitting here right here today with us, fortunately. And it's not because that wasn't the desire. So just briefly share a little bit of what you and Sister Janet endured during those 41 years.
Well, the thing was, we weren't supposed to come out that house alive August 8th, 1978. So when we did come out alive, their plan was to, well, Rizzo said it, he wanted to give us the death penalty, but that was not allowed. They didn't have their way with that. So we ended up getting what was really seen as a life sentence in prison, 30 to 100 years. And that still wasn't enough. What they planned on doing was they wanted to beat the fight out of us. They wanted to break the MOVE organization and shut us up. So the minute that we were arrested, we were being beat, tortured. We was kept down the roundhouse for 3 days, no food, no nothing, just sleeping on newspapers. That was the first beginning of it. When they were taking the women back to the prison, to the House of Corrections from the roundhouse, the paddy wagon we were in stopped at the dwarfs, the shipping dwarfs. And we were sitting there for a long time and we were like, this isn't right. Something is wrong. And we could hear the cops arguing, and the cops were saying it has to be all of us or we can't do it. And it was just one cop that said he didn't want to do. So we knew then that they were planning on beating us, raping us, and killing us. So, we was prepared for it. We just said if they opened the door, we were going for broke. We got our handcuffs. We were handcuffed from the back. We got our handcuffs in front of us. We made a protective circle around the two pregnant women that was with us at the time. And we just said, they open the door, we just going to have to fight with everything we got, fight for our lives. But when that one cop said he didn't want to go along with it, after sitting there for maybe almost 2 hours, they finally took us to the House of Correction. Once we got to the House of Correction, we was immediately put in isolation and treated like we had did something wrong. And while we were there, the doctor that came to examine the two pregnant sisters told us one day that he was being fired because they wanted him to do something to us that was against all his morals. He never said what it was, but they did fire him. And when our supporters found out and we told them, they pushed and fought and he got his job back. But he quit anyway. He said he couldn't work there no more because of what they wanted him to do. We were there for 3 years, sent upstate. Once we got upstate, they felt like, okay, you upstate now, we're going to work on you here. We was immediately put in the RHU restrictive housing unit. And when our sister Merle Africa, who was no longer with us, asked the sergeant and the captain there how long was we going to be in the RHU, he said, what's your sentence? She said 30 to 100 years. He said, there you go. That's how long y'all going to be in the RHU, which pushed us to fight back. That's when we went on a hunger confrontation, and we didn't eat for over 40 days. And this was at the same time the Irish army, they were on a hunger strike. They started going blind, and one of them, they started dying. So the people here at Muncie got scared and went to court and got a court order to come in there. They jumped us, held us down, like 4 big guards, men guards, came in each of our cells, held us down while the nurse shot us up with something. We don't know what it was. And took our blood, raped us of our blood, and then they said, okay, we'll let you in population. They tried to tell the courts that the only reason why we weren't in population was because we wouldn't give blood. We wouldn't go along with their medical procedures, but that wasn't the truth. But to get it out, they just jumped us, took our blood, and shot us up with something that made us violently ill, and then put us back in population. And then after that, because they was mad, they just kept finding reasons to harass us, to following us around, cars following us around. They just was doing all kind of things that it was getting to the point where our sister Alberta was supposed to see the parole board. And the week before she was supposed to see the parole board, they started a confrontation with us. And she wasn't involved, but they gave her the misconduct so that she would go in to see parole with a misconduct and hopefully get an automatic hit, denied parole. That was the last straw. We held a full-fledged demonstration in the dining room, shut the whole prison down, and went up to the superintendent's office, and we just told her, put everything out there. You know, we're committed to our belief. We're not afraid to fight for our lives, for our cause, and we're not taking this no more. We're going to show them how committed we are to the teaching of John Africa, and we want them to back off of us. So we shut the whole prison down, but we didn't want them bringing the National Guards in because we didn't want nobody getting hurt. We just wanted to make a point to that prison administration. We ended up getting put in a hole for 3 years, and finally, once again, people on the street put pressure on the prison. They had to let us down. And when they let us down, that's when they started kind of backing off of us and letting us show them the kind of people we were. And after about 4 years, the superintendent called us in our office and apologized for what they did to us, because they had orders to break us by any means necessary. And she listened to them and mistreated us, and she was getting ready to retire. And so since she was retiring, she called us in and apologized and told us all of this. So, you know, we've been through a lot in those prisons, you know, having our sister be murdered. I don't care what they say. She was medically assassinated. They even said that she died under suspicious circumstances. You know, my husband, Phil Africa, same thing. Medical assassination. They said he died under mysterious circumstances. They, well, I don't know what they did, but they ended up giving our brother Chucky Delbert some type of cancer, and then medically neglected them, mistreated them, medicated them, that to the point where what they had should not have killed them if they had been treated right. Because when Delbert got out and we took him to the hospitals and doctors here, the one doctor broke into tears when he saw the condition Delbert was in and found out what the prisons did to him. The doctor just broke out in tears. He said it was no way they should have gave him what they gave him, did what they did. They literally killed him. They killed him. They killed Chucky. You know, they killed Merle. They killed Phil.
They're trying to kill Mumia.
You know, and they're trying to do the same thing with Mumia. Medical assassination. And then on top of that, we had to experience May 13th in the hole, the RHU, having the lieutenant come to our cell, open the door, and tell us no explanation what happened or anything. Open the door and said, Sue, Africa, your son is dead. Shut the door back. Went down to the other cell. Consuela, your daughters are dead. Shut the door. They did each mother that way. Still didn't tell us what happened. We didn't know what was going on. They never gave us a phone call. The chaplain never came up, gave us a phone call to find out anything. That is all we knew. The only reason we found out what happened was girls that were on campus deliberately got misconducts so that they could sneak the newspaper articles up to us in the RHU. And that is how we found out that the city had bombed and murdered our family and our animals. You know, this is what we had to go through those 41 years in prison, you know, but because of our belief, our commitment to revolution, we made it through, and we still making it through. You know, this was meant to break us, to eliminate the MOVE organization. And once again, this system has failed and will continue to fail. But, you know, we went through a lot in those prisons. We went through a lot. We had to fight and show this system the commitment, the strength of a MOVE member.
Ashe. All right, Brother Nova. I don't know if you want to open up the floor now for any questions or comments.
Yes, indeed. That being said, family, thank you once again, Sister Jean, you know, for your perseverance, for your courage, and the rest of the MOVE family, for your diligence, you know, for your fighting warrior spirit. You know, so we give thanks and appreciate you for your tremendous service.
Well, that's important to us, because when we see that what the stand we have taken was not in vain, then that makes us feel good. That gives us strength. And it's important, you know, it's important. And it's important for all those political prisoners in prison to see that people haven't forgotten them and that people are still supporting them. You know, I guess I can't stress it, because unless you've been in that situation, you really, really can't understand what it means to know that you're not forgotten in those places. Because that's one of the tactics that they use on political prisoners. They want to make us feel like you did that, but it was for nothing, and nobody cares about you, and nobody's out there for you, nobody's fighting for you. So it means a lot when people can let those people in there know that, you know, the fight that they fighting is seen and appreciated.
I say, we love and appreciate you all. With that being said, let me open the floor up, family, for any questions or comments.
Yes, I have a question, sister. I salute you. I respect you, and just to hear these things I haven't heard before, in terms of how they treated you the way they did and your family. So my question to you is, what do you need from us, from your people who I'm meeting you for the first time? What do you need from us? How can we be of assistance in your continuous healing from such a terrible ordeal?
Well, really at this time, we're putting all our energy and our concentration on getting Mumia Abu Jamal out of prison because Mumia, at the time when all of this was going on with Move in the early 70s, Mumia was the only journalist that actually printed the truth about the situation. And he put everything on the line to keep that going. You know, he was warned by the editors of the Tribune, he was warned by the program manager of the NPR public radio station to stop telling the truth about Move and the situation, and he would not back down, and that's how he ended up losing everything because he would not stop. He said he just could not stop. He wasn't printing things in our favor or things against the police. He just was printing the truth. What we said, what the cops said, which was exposing the situation. And he lost everything because he refused to stop. And eventually, because he wouldn't stop, they tried to kill him. They shot him down in the street, and when he didn't die, they put him in jail and gave him the death penalty. And because of his commitment to move to the truth, we're giving him our commitment, and we just cannot sit by and do nothing and leave him in there. You know, they're doing the same thing to him that they did to our Move family in prison. They're trying to take his life through medical assassination, and that's what's important to us right now. We want people to really put their energy into doing whatever they think they can to bring attention to Mumia Abu-Jamal's situation.
As a member of the National Association of Black Social Workers, as well as the Association of Black Psychologists, I just want to let you know that our organizations will be available to you as you think you might need us.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
I say, give thanks. And I thank you for that addition, Dr. Onaji. With that being said, let me open up the floor once again for any questions or comments. Matter of fact, let me come to this one comment from one of our listeners on YouTube. This is Sister Baker, Sister Shirley Baker, saying, Ashe, thank you, Sister Janine, and all of the women warriors. All right, give thanks.
Thank you.
Can I get in here now?
Okay, yes, sir. Bob Moses.
Okay. First of all, let me say I guess I haven't introduced myself. I'm Robert Andrew Moses. I've been in the struggle for scientific socialism since the moment I was introduced to Marxism in a government class back in my high school years, 1968. And so I've been in this struggle for some time. I've been voting ever since I was eligible to vote, and et cetera, because I'm about political power. I want government power. I don't want some kind of cultural power or what. I want government power. And so, and I believe in putting people in who represent our interests. And I don't, if they're a Democrat, Republican, African liberation people, Social Workers Party, DSA, All African People's Revolutionary Party, GC. I don't care who, but I vote for people who represent my interests. And I don't believe it's going to change things by not voting. Ultimately, I'm for revolution. Make no mistake about it. I'm for a complete overthrow of the government and a new constitution. But that's not going to happen just because I want it. The things have to be done to make it happen. And so I'll leave it right there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that addition. All right, anyone else? Questions or comments for Sister Janine based on the information that has been shared thus far?
So I have a question for Sister Janine. I don't know if she wants to go into that for tonight, but clearly there are people who don't know what has happened in the past couple of years when it comes to the Philadelphia government, along with the University of Pennsylvania and another well-known Ivy League institution. And this is why I say again, family, why we don't get what this is really about, and the type of terrorism that will always continue. I just don't know, but hopefully if Sister Janine feels like she wants to share that, this will again help folk to be a little more astute, because we're talking with someone, I think Brother Eddie is there as well. We're talking with people who literally stood on what they believe. Whether anybody else believes it or not, that's not the point. That's what they believe, and they stood on that. And so too often people talk about what they believe, but to what extent are they really going to do something? And so, again, what oftentimes isn't shared is that when you're in this movement, you're going to be attacked, particularly if you continue to stay steadfast. So with that said, I'm going to ask Sister Janine again if she would be so kind to share whatever information, excuse me, whatever information in regards to the development of what has happened in the past couple of years to put insult, not just insult into injury, but to show you the diabolical madness of the system in such a way that is undeniable. Sister Janine.
Well, really, Sister Filet, I really, my heart just can't take that right now tonight.
Okay.
And I know and I appreciate it, but I really can't. I just can't go there right now.
No problem. So what I would encourage folks to do, because what I'm making reference to, there's a lot of information online. And this is what we tell folk. You can go and find out what it is that I'm referring to. And again, I'm not going to go into full details with just saying that the city of Philadelphia, along with two well-known institutions, did things that in the past couple of years that you would not think, that or most average people would not think that this is something that that institutions and so forth would do. And so, Brother Lumumba, I don't know if you could put something in the chat that kind of indicates what I'm referring to. And then that way, particularly for Brother Anaji, because I'm pretty sure he might not have heard about what I'm referring to. And again,
I believe he is familiar with that,
okay.
recent development, but I will put that in the chat as well.
Okay, cool. Okay. And again, see, this is what we're talking about in terms of, this is a present day situation. And this is why with the We Charge Genocide 21, we're very holistic. So even though we're going to be, of course, talking about the 400 plus years, transatlantic slave trade and trafficking and so forth, we want to make sure that there's certain things put on record internationally. And what happened in 1985 here in Philadelphia with a bomb being dropped, that is a crime against humanity in present day, in more present day. And it needs to be documented as such. It needs to be listed as such, so that future generations will relate to it, not just as, the moon bombing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you go look this stuff up, that's what it say. I'm like, what? So this needs to be put into its proper perspective. And that means to take it into the courts beyond the U.S., the data, the information, the evidence, and have a ruling, a judgment, or at least an opinion or opinions. We're now connecting to 123 countries. Why not get their opinion about what happened on May 13th, 1985? For the future, that can make a big difference. These are some of the things that we're talking about bringing forward now.
Thank you for that.
I hate to get in the way, but can Sister Janine find me a Mamiya T-shirt?
Can I find you a Mamiya T-shirt?
My gosh.
Well, we can. We had them made up. I guess we could get one made up for you. Who is
I
this?
don't know, whatever. I didn't know what the situation was. Nobody, I thought maybe that, there was an outlet back then. I mean, it's been so many years and stuff. But I've been trying to get a T-shirt. I don't know who to talk to. Or I guess I can make it up myself. Then I can get my sister. She makes our family reunion T-shirts and different things.
Oh, yeah.
I can get her to do. I can get her to do it if the push comes to shove.
Yeah, because that's the free Mamiya T-shirts that we wear. That's what happened. Eddie Africa's daughter made them up for us. So, we could probably arrange something like that for you.
I have a pretty good track record with T-shirts. I did the Bradley Manning. I did the Cuban 5, and I had a pretty good record.
Oh, okay. All right. So, everybody, I have to leave.
Okay, thank you, my sister.
No, thank you, Sister Filet, and to everybody. I wish more people could hear these conversations that you're having.
Well, now that we're on YouTube and Facebook, a lot of people are hearing it.
Okay, good.
Oh yeah,
good.
yeah.
Because it's important, and like you said, it needs to be. These conversations need to get out more to people because the new generations, they need to hear it, and it needs to be out there, continued, and on a regular basis, because if, as Diantha says, the information is important for the formation.
Absolutely.
My sister, just before you go, can I also thank you? You are an inspiration to all of us. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And on the move, everybody, and keep on
And watch your
pushing,
back.
keep on working.
Okay.
On the move.
On the move.
I say. Give thanks on the move. Free Mumia Abu Jamal. Free them all.
Yes.
That's right. Free them all. What's the call? Free them all.
Free them all. I say.
Straight ahead, like Matulu said.
All right. Okay, so again, those who may not be familiar with what I was referring to, for those who might hear it in the future, those who are presently hearing it, approximately 3 years ago, the city of Philadelphia was found to have taken the remains of the children from the 1985 bombing. And as Sister Janine mentioned, one of the children was her own child, Sister Janet's child as well. But the city of Philadelphia enabled the University of Pennsylvania as well as Princeton to have some of the remains to use for study for the students without the permission of the families, without anybody really knowing except for the people who knew. And somehow it got leaked out. Someone saw it, because this is when the students were doing classes online. And when it was learned that the forensic class that they were having was on the children, that ended up getting sent to people who, of course, knew the family. And from that point on, it got into just the reality that the mishandling of the remains of the children when the family was told that the remains had been buried. And so again, this just happened within the past couple of years. So there's still some things pending, which is, one of the reasons why Sister Janine, doesn't like to really talk about it. And of course, it's very painful, needless to say. But the person, the examiner, was fired here in Philadelphia. The remains was supposedly given to the family, only to find out that after further examination by a professor in New York who looked at photos of the initial what they claim to have had, and then to look at the photos of what was given to the family, clearly all of the remains were still not given. So I'm saying that to say, family, if we don't get this by now, that these people are just monsters, the system, then I don't know, what kind of wake up call folks need or think they're going to have. And lastly, and then we're going to get ready to close out. We've seen political people, political parties. We've seen Obama. We've seen all kinds of stuff over the years. And, whenever we think something is happening, I'm in Philly. I'm writing a book called The New Philadelphia Negro, because I literally saw with my own eyes how people were put in position, supposedly representing our best interests, and then for whatever reason, and they talked their game initially, but then for whatever reason, flipped up on us. And I was a student, being in the street, getting, petitions signed so that people could run and all that stuff. So for me, I just would never, ever encourage people to do things in a manner that many have seen has failed. So with that said, we're going to get any more questions or comments before we close out and get ready to move forward.
I have a comment. I did put in the chat August 29th. The December 12th movement is organizing a 25-year commemoration of the Durban Declaration that was the forerunner to what happened in March. So you can Google December 12th movement or December 12th, and you see information about August the 29th, because we're moving forward. So hopefully people will be able to attend one of those activities, and even maybe create one in their time.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Naji. And we did have Sister Colette on about 2 weeks ago, and she did, of course, share that information.
I say. All right, give thanks. All right, with that being said, I'm going to open up the floor one more again for any questions or comments. As a matter of fact, let me just come to you, Baba Shango and Baba Onaji. Let me come to Baba Shango for final thoughts and closing remarks.
Very, very, very interesting program. And I thank our sister Empress. She always make it the best. Thank you also, Brother Lumumba. I would have one request, that for Sister Empress and Brother Onaji, that you look at the possibility of how the question of repatriation could be integrated into the struggle for reparations, because as you know, if somebody stole you and trafficked you, you might not be able to get back. So we need to have the rights to return. Sister Empress, I wish you luck. I hope you have a better luck since we have a black pope. And thank you again for your struggle.
Thank you, Baba. And again, we have no real expectations about certain things. I'm sure most are aware that strategy and the capability to maneuver is important. And so that's what some things are really more about than other things. But thank you, Baba. I really appreciate that, and certainly appreciate your support over the years. MWM hasn't gotten much support over the years, and we have now sucked it up and accepted it, and that's why at this stage of the game, we don't really wade or him and haw or any of that stuff, because the conversations about unity are good conversations, but in reality, it's a whole nother, thing. So now that that's understood, we proceed accordingly.
All right. Give thanks for that addition, Baba Shango, as well as Sister Empress. Okay, let me come to Sister Empress for final thoughts, closing remarks, and
Okay, we just want to remind everyone that tomorrow is, in fact, the International Day of Remembrance of the Slave Trade and its abolition. And again, for our study groups, these are some of the things that we're making certain that this kind of information is available to the masses of our people, along with basic kinds of things. But again, because of tomorrow's significance, its relationship to the Haitian Revolution and other kinds of dynamics, we felt it was more than appropriate to make certain that our voice is heard. And so we're issuing what we call the message from the grassroots. Brother Malcolm gave us the message to the grassroots. Well, in the spirit of Brother Malcolm, we're issuing a message from the grassroots in such a way that we now are building so that the representation of our people can be more inclusive in such a way that we bust through some of these class issues and class realities. And so with the masses of our people, we're looking to now establish our National Black Human Rights Commission, an independent commission that, is not, interested in a lot of unnecessary kinds of finagling. And so tomorrow we begin to introduce some of what that is, in hopes that, those who are on a similar or same page will feel inclined to support. If not, that's okay, because, we know what to do regardless. But again, we want to make sure that, we reach out, that the inclusiveness is there, because unfortunately, oftentimes it is not. So we invite everyone to join us 3:00 tomorrow. We will be launching our Ubuntu Justice Initiative, which is a part of our Black Human Rights Initiative, because one of the ways that we are looking to make certain that the masses of our people know what we're talking about when we talk about repair. And by the way, Baba, repatriation is definitely in our program. Again, we honor the Honorable Marcus Garvey and others in their work. So, we've put pieces together to make every effort to advance some of what they're doing or did do. But again, our Ubuntu Justice Initiative is specifically geared to arts and culture. Because again, we know that that's a language that most of our people are able to connect to. And so once we're able to make that connection, then we're able to politicize. So to just hit people with a whole lot of dogma and all of that right out the gate, that's not what we want to do. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to deal with fundamentals of tradition of arts and culture and do it from a national, international level. So again, 3:00 tomorrow, we begin to unveil the Ubuntu Justice Initiative and the We Charge Genocide 21 Black Human Rights project.
Can you put the link in the chat so I can send it out to folks?
Yes. Matter of fact, if you could put your email in the chat for me, and then I can make sure that you're forwarded the emails. I thought she was on the email list, but I'll make sure I'll get it to you directly.
Yeah, unless it's changed. I've sent it out numerous times.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and that's going to be on Zoom as well as Facebook Live. We have these meetings every Sunday at 3 p.m. All right, over the past few months now. Okay. All right. With that being said, okay, got it. Got the email. Excellent. With that being said, family, we are getting ready to close out for this evening. I want to say for any additional information, updates, initiatives, memberships, programs, so on and so forth, you can contact, you can email nationalmwm@aol.com. That's nationalmwm@aol.com. You can also email powerman2282@gmail.com. That's powerman2282@gmail.com. You can also text 267-636-3802. That number again is 267-636-3802. I want to give thanks again for our guests, presenters, Baba Shango, as well as Sister Janine. All right, and thank you for those who joined on for our Zoom, for our StreamYard session here. And those who joined us as well on our virtual platforms through YouTube Live as well as Facebook Live. All right. I want to give thanks first and foremost to
Brother Mumbo, before you do that, one quick thing we forgot. Please invite folks to visit our Beacon store. Because again, we're one of the few national, international groups, organizations that is not a 501, is not connected to one at this time, and does not get grants and government, whatever. So, we really would appreciate supporting our store. So, Brother Moon, could you let folks know how they could do that?
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thanks for the reminder. All right. So we do have the beacongoodservices.com. That's our e-commerce store. All right. As we continue to build finances to continue to fight for liberation. All right. For our people. So that's going in the chat currently. All right. I'll put that on the screen. That's the beacongoodservices.com. All right. Let me put that on the screen. Let me put that in the group chat as well for the panelists. Again, the beacongoodservices.com, family, and you can go there. There's going to be continuous merchandise that in apparels that's going to be continually developed on that platform. Okay, and right now we're looking at some of the premiere of the latest official MWM apparel, Men Women March apparel. All right, so that is one way that you can support the movement. All right, family. Each purchase goes towards supporting grassroots organization of the Men Women March and other supporting connecting organizations. So, developing grassroots organizations as well as supporting Black businesses that actually support you. Okay, because one thing that we definitely encourage, all right, is supporting Black businesses. Okay, because one thing that we definitely encourage, all right, is supporting Black businesses. Okay, because one thing that we definitely encourage, all right, is supporting Black businesses. Okay, because one thing that we definitely encourage, all right, is supporting Black businesses. Okay, because one thing that we definitely encourage, all right, is supporting Black businesses. Okay, because one thing that we definitely encourage, all right, is supporting Black businesses. Okay, because one thing that we definitely encourage, all right, is supporting Black businesses. Okay, because one thing that we definitely encourage, all right, is supporting Black businesses. Okay, because one thing that we definitely encourage, all right, is supporting Black businesses. Okay, because one thing that we definitely encourage, all right, is supporting Black businesses. Okay, because one thing that we definitely encourage, all right, is supporting Black businesses. Okay, because one thing that we definitely encourage, all right, is supporting Black busines and appreciate is this not just supporting black businesses, but actually supporting black businesses that are supporting the community, that are supporting activism, activist work, that are supporting our political prisoners. All right. So with that being said, again, you can go to the Beacon Goods Services.com. All right, that is on the screen currently. Okay, family, and we appreciate your support. All right, I put that in the chat as well for those who are with us in the yard. All right, family, give thanks once again.
Can I add one last thing here? Yeah, the America first means Israel first, which means apartheid and white supremacy. I'll leave it right there. Thank you.
All right, give thanks. Thanks for that addition, Bob Moses. All right, family, with that being said, we're going to close out this session for this evening. Once again, I'm going to give thanks first and foremost to the Most High Creator, Creatress. Give thanks to the ancestors and the elders, those who have shed blood, sweat, and tears and paved the way to allow us to be here today. I want to thank you all. Thank you for your time, energy, and effort, dedication, determination, and discipline. I bid you all truth, justice, peace, love, freedom, power, prosperity, protection, patience, and divinely principled purpose. I want to say, let us continue to strategize, organize, and mobilize. And finally, family, I want to say, Pamoja Tuta Shenda, which means together we will win. Peace, power, and prosperity, family. Until next time.